My dear friends at Ofcom, in case you didn't know, Britain is actually bombing Libya, increasingly savagely, killing people in Libya in the name of freedom and democracy, in the name of freedom of speech, in the name of freedom of opinion, of assembly, of political freedom, of pluralism. Do you get my drift, Mr. Ofcom, the independent regulator of the British TV and radio industry? Well, we'll see just how independent they are over the next few weeks. I have no doubt. But one thing is beyond doubt. It is that the British state is trying to close Press TV down. In the interests, of course, of liberty, freedom, and freedom of speech. You see, you're allowed to have freedom of speech in this country of ours, as long as the speech that you're freely speaking meets the tests of the rulers of the country. We'll see in the next few weeks just what Ofcom does next. But we already know from the Sunday Times, the sewer of choice of British state officials, in a quotation from what they described as a high British official, that if he had his way, he'd close Press TV down. We also know, thanks to Julian Assange and the WikiLeaks cable that he brought to our attention and which is published, of a conversation between an American official and a British official about how they might construct a case to close Press TV down. And we know that in the most bizarre piece of business for a bank, in the stricken financial circumstances in which British banks find themselves, the British bank which closed the account without warning of Press TV, even though it had a very, very large sum of money in it, and even though the account had been conducted impeccably, it was closed without notice, plunging the station into all sorts of temporary difficulties, now resolved. We know, and we're not paranoid, that they, at least, are out to get us. Go ahead, sir.
I'm just really angry about Ofcom. How dare they think, that they can control all the media? We need someone at Press TV to show everybody what's really going on around the world, not what BBC or Fox or whatever they want to show, keep us all asleep, half asleep at least. If we watch this show, Press TV altogether, we understand what's going on. So what we need is something like a protest against these guys. Nah, you should be leading it, since you exactly know what you're going on about everything.
Since you are someone with vast knowledge, I'd like to ask you a few questions.
Okay.
Firstly, which group is trying behind the scenes to apply pressure for Press TV to shut down, and what are they afraid of? And I feel bitterly and very angry about this episode, and what can we as viewers do to support Press TV? Thank you.
Well, Shokat, thanks for that. I think that will be a widely felt emotion across our audience this evening. First, I want to reassure you of something. Neither Ofcom nor anyone else will close us down. They may put us off the Sky TV. You may have to look for us elsewhere. That would be a very great inconvenience to us, but it would be a mark of shame for them and would leave them across the world naked in their hypocrisy. If the British state persuades the independent regulator, and let me assume that Ofcom is the independent regulator it says it is, if it begins to sing the same song that British officials are singing in the WikiLeaks cable, in the Sunday Times last week, and in all sorts of anecdotal and coincidental occurrences, then they will stand naked before the world as hypocrites. Not democracy, but hypocrisy. Fighting, sending our young soldiers to give their life's blood in the name of freedom of speech and assembly and thought in other people's countries, whilst closing down freedom of speech, freedom of thought in our own country.
May I say how inspirational, informative and helpful I've always found press television, and how appalled I am at the suggestion, if that is indeed what it is, by Ofcom that it should be closed down. I think it's absolutely disgusting. Press television has performed a wonderful democratic service. It's performed a humanitarian service. It's provided a voice for the powerless, the effectively disenfranchised. And I can't think of anything more tragic than the situation that would result if it were to close down.
George, why don't we put on press television a site, an email site, where we can all go on our computers and support a petition against Ofcom behaving in an unfair manner? We all have millions of friends all around the world, and they can also join in on this petition, and I'm sure you can get millions of people bringing up a petition that you can show to whoever you have to show to, and that would probably do a lot of good. What do you think of that?
Well, Alex, I certainly think that if Ofcom were to do the bidding of the British high officials quoted in the papers on Sunday and close us down, and that paper, by the way, appears to have had advanced knowledge of decision of Ofcom. I wonder how they managed that. Then there would be very serious consequences for civil liberties in this country, and I don't believe that the majority of the British people would accept it lying down. And certainly the political fallout for it, both here and abroad, would be very, very considerable. But most importantly, it would leave the Britain that's bombing for democracy in Libya, that's occupying for democracy in Afghanistan, looking rather shabby. We are the voice of those voiceless, and we will continue to be by whatever means necessary. There isn't anyone going to shut us up. They might be able to make difficulties for us, as the bank did when it, without notice, closed our bank account. But we got through, and we will get our truth, our message through, and let people make their own judgments as to the stance that we are taking, the angle from which we are covering news and current affairs.